what kind of recipe are you going to use? This really depends on what your cat is currently eating. If your cat is currently eating ground food, then it would be better to start with a boneless recipe. If you're feeding your cat chunks of food and maybe some bones here and there, then maybe you can go with a raw meaty bones recipe. Of course, keep in mind that cats are picky about changes, so you're still going to have to work with your cat. You might also want to bake into your schedule some research time, making sure you understand proper feeding and meal prep tips, and I'm going to cover all of that in this video. Hey friends, it's Jess, and Jericho is up on top of his little cat ladder. He doesn't want to be filmed yet, so he's just gonna hang out up there. But anyway, you can make homemade cat food at home, and it is easy. It's going to take time for you to get used to the routine, and it's going to take time for you to, bake it into your routine, just like any change does. But once you're in the routine of it, it becomes very easy, and it's basically just like putting together a recipe for yourself, right? So you plan it out, you get the recipe, you get the ingredients, you set up your area, you make the recipe, and then you portion it out or you store it and then you eat it. Very simple. So if you can do it for yourself, you can do it for your cat. And step one, I would suggest, is to create a plan. Because if you have a plan in place, you aren't going to get overwhelmed, you aren't going to get stressed, you're going to know exactly what to do, and when life gets in the way, you can still do it because you have a plan. So you're going to plan out what kind of recipe are you going to use. This really depends on what your cat is currently eating. If your cat is currently eating ground food, then it would be better to start with a boneless recipe because that's also ground. Try to stick to the same textures and try to stick to the same proteins, similar ingredients. Obviously, they're going to be better because it's homemade. But if you stick with similar ingredients, that's going to make the transition for your cat much easier, have the same smells, like I said, the same textures. If you're feeding your cat chunks of food and maybe some bones here and there, then maybe you can go with a raw meaty bones recipe. But for most people, a boneless recipe is going to be better. So you're going to want to plan out, researching cat food recipes, looking for the right one, and take your time with it because, you're just going to focus on one recipe when you start, but you want to make sure that it fits that criteria so that you don't waste your time getting all the ingredients, putting it together, and then your cat doesn't eat it. But of course, keep in mind that cats are picky about changes, so you're still going to have to work with your cat. And on that note, working with your cat, you're going to need at least 2 months to transition your cat to the new food. So if you're feeding 2 meals a day, 20 days for each meal, you start with 1 meal, and then once that meal is 100% new food, you start with the next food. And that's exactly what my transition plan is, 20 days per meal, because you're adding a tiny bit amount of the new food, gradually decreasing the current food. I know it sounds like a lot of work, and maybe I'm gonna lose some of you on this video already, especially if you're new here, but this is what cats prefer. This is what's better for their digestion, and it's going to be easier for you as well because it's very slow and gradual. So it's going to be less stressful, less overwhelm, and less frustrating because your cat's more likely to eat it. So after you have all of that in place, you have that plan, you're going to want to plan out when you're actually going to buy the ingredients, when you're going to make the food. It's not going to take you all day, but in the beginning, it is going to take you a little bit longer just because it's your first time doing it. Again, with anything, it's your first time, first couple times. It's going to take a little bit longer. Once you're in the routine of it, it'll be quicker and much easier. You might also want to bake into your schedule some research time, making sure you understand proper feeding and meal prep tips, and I'm going to cover all of that in this video. But step one, most importantly, is to create that plan. Now, of course, the plan does eliminate overwhelm. I'm sure I just overwhelmed a lot of you, but just take it one step at a time. This is step one. Get that figured out. Come back next month and then watch step two. Easy. So step 2, you're going to choose your homemade cat food recipe. So you've already done the research and you've already planned out when you're going to do it. You've already planned out what type of recipe you're looking for. Now you're going to actually choose the recipe. Now there are some free recipes online, but the con there is that there's not much variety. I mean, this could be good, you know, if your cat's already eating chicken and already eating boneless and already eating some supplements, synthetic supplements. Most cats are if they're eating commercial cat food. But the con here is that a lot of the free recipes online are just different variations of the same recipe, or some of them still use plant-based ingredients and still rely on synthetic supplements. So again, you know, you're gonna have to decide in this second step which recipe is most appropriate for you. I do actually create and sell recipes. I formulated these recipes. They come with a lot of variety, and there's also some more singular protein options as well. And I just focus on whole food nutrients. So there are some supplements, but they're all whole foods, nothing synthetic. But I use these whole food ingredients because I try to match what our cats would eat in the wild. Obviously, they wouldn't eat supplements, but we need to use supplements because we're not feeding whole prey. That's just the way it is. So my recipes, I have 9 total. There are 6 that are boneless, 3 that include raw meaty bones. So the meat ingredients in my recipes, if you were to buy all of them, you would get turkey thigh, chicken thigh, ground beef, ground lamb, ground turkey, chicken wings, turkey heart, beef heart, chicken heart, lamb heart, turkey gizzards, chicken gizzards, beef green tripe, turkey liver, chicken liver, beef kidney, salmon, sardines, and egg yolks. So we have 6 total proteins, 6 different types of muscle meats, including the meat on the chicken bones, 3 different muscular organs, 2 secreting organs, 2 types of oily fish, and then the egg yolk, which is a multivitamin supplement right there. And we need variety because cats eat between 5 to 7 different proteins to complete their diet when they live outside. So this protein variety also comes in handy if your cat's picky. Doesn't get bored, you know, there's a lot of nutrients. Each animal provides different nutrients, and that's really what helps round out the diet. And like I said, we're not feeding whole prey, so we have to do the best that we can to feed variety so that we can fill in those nutritional gaps. The supplements in the recipe include a bone replacement supplement just to bring the calcium to phosphorus ratio up. So I like Better Bones by 4-Leaf Rover because they actually clarify this is freeze-dried beef bone. Most other supplements just say bone meal. Foods Alive nutritional yeast, this one is non-fortified, so that means that all of the nutrients are in there from the yeast and not from them adding back those B vitamins. Perfect Supplements Aquatic Greens, this is a blend of chlorella and spirulina algae. And then Maine Coast Sea Veg Kelp Blend Sea Seasonings. You know, that's for iodine. It's also high in potassium and all of these other minerals. And then Germ's wheatgrass powder and Now Vitamin E oil. So Now Vitamin E oil is probably the only one that's like, you know, cats wouldn't eat this in the wild because it is derived from soy. Unfortunately, vitamin E is only in plant-based, well, it's highest in plant-based foods. Some of the recipes, we can fulfill the vitamin E requirement with the aquatic greens, but some of them, the meat ingredients are just too low, and the aquatic greens powder isn't enough because, you know, I mean, we can't add a whole tablespoon of the greens powder. So, and it's just 1 drop a day for the vitamin E oil, and it's not in every single recipe. So I'll put links to those in the description. Every single listing, photo and the description lists out the exact ingredients, not the quantities, but the ingredients. So please read that carefully before you buy it. And just a heads up, all of these supplements are only available in the United States and Canada. So if you do not live in the United States or Canada, you cannot use these recipes. Sorry, but there are no substitutions. The analysis is based on these specific supplements because they actually provide a nutritional analysis of their products. And I can't do research in every single country, so this is just what would work, you know, for most of the people that watch my videos anyways, United States and Canada. So next you're going to buy your ingredients and your meal prep supplies. So it's important to follow exactly what the recipe says. You want to use the exact protein, the exact cut, and the exact quantity, because when recipes are provided, the nutritional analysis is based on those exact ingredients. My recipes do include options to make 1 day, 7 days, and 30 days. And if your cat needs more or less of the quantities, I do have a spreadsheet that'll automatically do the work for you inside of my little bonus homemade cat food hub. So you don't have to, if you do buy my recipes, you don't have to worry about like wondering what quantities to use. Everything is included in there for you. The best places to buy your ingredients would be the local farm or farmer's market, because it'll be fresher and you're buying local, you're buying, you're supporting family businesses. That's the most ideal. Maybe you could find a raw food co-op that's in your area. So this would be a group of raw feeders that buy in bulk and then split up, so you pay for what you want, your share basically. But that's a good way to buy in bulk. Sometimes you might not want to buy 10 pounds, which is the typical minimum for raw pet food. So search out to see if there's a raw food co-op in your area. Maybe you have friends and family in the area that are going to do this with you. Order together so that you can split the cost of the shipping at least. Or you can go to your grocery store. We don't have to be 100% ideal all the time. Ideal, quite frankly, would be we don't have cats in our homes. They live outside and hunt for their own food. So let's be honest, none of us are ideal. You can buy some of the ingredients at the farm, some of them at the grocery store, all of them at the grocery store. Just be mindful that ground meat, you want to buy that already frozen and not pre-thawed at the grocery store, because you have no idea how long it's been thawed. So there can be some surface bacteria on that you can't wash off. Whereas with whole parts, you can rinse that off and you can chop it up or grind it up yourself. But definitely look for ground meat that's frozen, and more ideal in an opaque container so that none of the light can get through, with a see-through container. The other option is to buy online. So there are a couple different food suppliers that I would suggest. White Oak Pastures is great. That's actually a regenerative farm that they sell for human food consumption, but they have tons of variety. They have gizzards and organs, different cuts of meat, different ratios and stuff. So you can stock up for yourself, stock up for your cat. I personally love their 80/20 ground beef, and I buy kidney and spleen and all these other different parts from them. And if you use my affiliate code that's in the description, you'll save $20 on your first order of $150 or more. Plus, I'll send you my free bundle of recipes. So all 9 of my recipes, I'll send it to you for free if you use my affiliate code as a thank you. Just fill out the Google form to let me know your order details, and then, in your email so that I can send it to you. The other option is Hair Today. This is a raw pet food supplier. They're USDA and FDA inspected. They are human grade quality because their products, they made it on Susan Fixon's 2023 list. There are certain foods that aren't human grade quality, like beef lung, because we don't eat that. Beef green tripe, because we don't eat that. We eat white tripe, which is at the grocery store. It's been bleached and scalded, and it doesn't have that pre-digested plant matter inside of it. Anyway, I used Hair Today for years, and I still use them from time to time because they have an excellent rewards program. So you can create an account, you'll earn discount points then. You'll earn discount points on your order. You'll earn discount points if you leave a review on products. If you share your referral link with friends and family, like I do with you. You can share a link on social, follow them on social. They have a bunch of different options. You can share a testimonial, share a picture for their website. They have a really great rewards program. And sometimes I'm able to get free shipping, and they'll actually let you apply it to shipping. And I also can sometimes get my entire order for free. Sometimes I'll just let it sit and rack up the points, and then I'll claim them, when I need to make a big order. The other option is Raw Feeding Miami, and I rely on them a lot for their whole prey and their raw milk kefir that I drink. I really love the variety that they have. They also have all different types of meat, all different types of meaty bones. They have all different types of organs and all different types of proteins. They also sell the 4-leaf Rover Better Bones supplement that's included in my recipes. And if you use my affiliate link in the description, you'll save 10% on your first order. They also have an excellent rewards program, so that's part of the rewards program. If you use my link, you'll get 10% off, and then I'll get $15 off my next purchase. So you can share your link with people and get $15 off. You also earn points on your on your purchases, and then if you share on social or follow them on social and all of that. So those points really do come in handy. You'll also have to buy your supplements online, and I include links to the specific supplements that I use in my recipes in the Homemade Cat Food Hub, but the recipe itself also lists the brand and the product, and I'll also put some links in the description. But don't just mix and match and just guess. Use the supplements that are in the recipe, whichever recipe you choose, and use the specific brand and the specific quantity. Because like I said, it's complete because of that specific product, that specific ingredient that they're using. For meal prep supplies, I like to use a food grade silicone mat. So I put this on my countertop and put everything on top of that. You'll need a digital scale and some kind of a plate. So I just use this stainless steel plate to weigh the food. And then I have these kitchen shears to cut up the chicken bones. I like to use this small scissor because that is helpful with the skin. And then I use nitrile gloves. I just get those at the grocery store, and they're powder free and all of that. And then I have these freezer safe jars or glass containers that I got at the grocery store as well, or I just reuse jars. And you might need like a larger glass container just to put all the food in while you're portioning it out. I use the same utensils, same containers, same countertop that I do my own food, same as Jericho's food. And that actually is proven to be one way to eliminate pathogen transmission. This is extra info, but I'm sure people might be wondering. There was a survey that Frontiers in Veterinary Science veterinarians sent out to just over 5,600 people, or they received responses from just over 5,600 people. And they found that one reason there was pathogen transmission, like increased risk, was the pet parents were preparing the raw food in a separate area, using separate utensils than the human food area and utensils. So, I mean, if you think about it, if you're moving stuff to another area, you're using different stuff. Now you have double the things that you have to wash. So, but that's why I like the silicone mat, because I just put everything on top, pick it up, bring it to the sink, wash with hot water and soap. You don't have to use bleach. I mean, you can it's the same as when you clean up after you prepare food for yourself. That's it. Just wash it in the sink, hot water, soap. I use white vinegar to wipe down the counter if I drop something, but it's basic food safety hygiene methods that you use for yourself. Okay, so next you're going to actually make the food. So I would say for me, I do a 4-week batch, and that takes about half an hour to portion out the quantities that I need for 4 weeks worth. And then I use a vacuum sealer to freeze 3 of them, and then 1 of them I portion out for that current week. So you'll have to figure out what will work best for you. I'm also only feeding 1 cat. So if you have multiple cats, maybe you have to make a larger batch more often. If you have 1 cat, maybe you can test out the 4 weeks, and then, because if you're gonna buy food, it's not like you can buy just 2 ounces of heart, So it might be smarter to use up what you have and then put everything in the freezer. Now, I know a lot of people have mentioned to me that they don't have freezer space. I mean, I have plenty of freezer space, and I don't have a large freezer. It's just a regular apartment freezer. And I always have it full of ground beef for myself because that's all I eat. And then the bottom is Jericho's food. So, and I don't keep anything in there longer than I need it, if that makes sense. So like stuff is only in there a couple weeks. I eat it up, Jericho eats it up, and then I replenish it. So I don't know, you might have to plan to clear out your freezer. But I'm able to fit multiple pounds of food in the freezer for myself and for Jericho. Sometimes I put 26 pounds of ground beef because that's like 1 month's worth of food for me. So, you'll have to figure out what works best for your freezer. Again, mine is just a basic, we've been here for, I think, 6 or 7 years. It's not like a new freezer. It's not advanced at all. But anyway, so I do 4 weeks, freeze 3 weeks, and then portion out 1 week. When I portion out 1 week, this also takes about 20 to 30 minutes. What I'll do for each of the 4 weeks is I'll just portion out the total amount that I need. I don't chop anything up. I just put it in the bag whole, then I put it in the freezer for about 5 hours just so that there's no juices in it anymore, but it's not like rock solid frozen. Then I'll use the vacuum sealer. That way it isn't getting freezer burnt before I use the vacuum sealer, because that kind of defeats the purpose. And then once I portion out that current week, then I'll chop it up and then weigh out the daily portions. And that takes about maybe 20 or 30 minutes. But I've also been doing this, for a while, and I only have one cat. So you'll have to test it out the first time you do it, maybe time yourself. You don't want to take too long because you don't want the raw food sitting out longer than, I would say, like 30 minutes. So you might want to put back what you're not using, put it back in the refrigerator. I'll put some links to some storage containers in the description, so just check that out. There's also a link to this entire guide, if you want to read through it. That's also in the description. So larger amounts of food will take longer to thaw. Thaw it in the refrigerator. I would say if it's like 1 pound of food, at least 24 hours before you need it. And then you can thaw it also if you put it in a container with cold water, but keep the food itself in a sealed bag, in a sealed container, because you don't want the water to rinse off the nutrients and the juices. So you can do that. That's what I do sometimes, because otherwise it takes up the entire bottom of my refrigerator. So I just put it in a big plastic tub, fill it with cold water, and put it in my tub, and then put all of the Jericho's food. And that usually takes about 2 hours for like 4 weeks worth of food. Ideally, you would feed supplements fresh at mealtime, but if it's easier for you to bulk everything in, that's fine too. Just make sure you chop up secreting organs and sardines very well and mix it very well so it's even distribution, and the same with supplements. Make sure that it's evenly distributed. You can add a little bit of water because the supplements are dry, but just be mindful that that water is going to add extra volume, extra weight. So when you're weighing out the daily portions, you might need to weigh out a little bit more than what your cat would eat daily, just to account for that water weight. Or you can mix it, and then when you're weighing out the daily portions, then you can add some water to the container. So what I do is I weigh out each individual day's worth of portion in one container, and I'll put that in the freezer. And then the morning that I feed Jericho breakfast, I'll take the next day's worth of food, put it in the refrigerator to thaw. That night, I'll separate it into 2 containers. That way, when I feed in the morning, I don't have to weigh or measure anything. Just put out one jar, and then in the evening, put out the other, because he eats twice a day. I hope that makes sense. So now you're going to use your transition plan to portion out your cat's food. So depending on what your cat's currently eating, the amount that he's currently eating, and the amount of new food that you need, basically my transition plan adds a gradual 5% increase of the new food each day and gradual decrease of the current food each day, 5%. So first day would be 95 current, 5% new. Next day would be 90% current, 10% new, and so on. So an additional 5% of each, increasing the new food and decreasing the current food. So again, this is gonna take time. It's gonna take planning. I have a spreadsheet that's included in my ebook. It's included if you buy the bundle of the ebook and the recipes. There's a spreadsheet that does the work for you, or you can just create a spreadsheet yourself with formulas. And there's also a printable food transition sheet that comes with the ebook, or it's a digital version, which depending on which one you get. Again, there's links in the description. So you're gonna plan that out and then weigh out each of those meals, and then you're going to, serve your cat the food each time. And if your cat gets a little picky, I would say use some freeze-dried raw treats, something with a nice strong smell like freeze-dried minnows or freeze-dried salmon. You don't want to rely on it every single day, but it can be helpful if your cat gets picky. In my recipes, I include either sardines or salmon. So that smell would be a good smell attractant, but it's only about 5 or 6% of the recipe, and it's a really great source of vitamin D. It's the most natural source of vitamin D that you can get. Also has a lot of omega-3s. So I used to say not to feed it, but now I think it's a staple that should be in every homemade diet, just because, we can't ignore those nutrients. And it's better than giving a synthetic vitamin D supplement, right? Now, when you serve your cat's raw food, you might want to bring it to room temp. Don't use the microwave. Don't put it in a skillet. Don't leave it out at room temperature. Instead, do fill a container like a bowl with some warm water, not cold, not hot, warm water. Put it in the sink and then put the sealed container of food into the warm water bath. Keep the food in the sealed container because, again, you don't want to rinse those nutrients. You don't want the juices to leak out because there's nutrients in there. I like to take it like about 5 minutes. I like to keep it in there about 5 minutes. And then if there's raw meaty bones, maybe 10 minutes, just because they're going to take a little longer to warm up. You may have to touch and feel the water. It might get cold because you're putting cold food in there or a cold container in there. So you can just dump it and refill it, put the container back in, and then you can serve the food. And, you know, I would say your cat should probably eat it up within a couple minutes. But I would say if your cat doesn't eat it up within like 20 or 30 minutes, you can put it back into a container, put it back in the refrigerator, try again later or try again tomorrow. I would say after maybe like 1 or 2 days in the refrigerator, if he doesn't eat it, just toss it. You can thaw and refreeze food. That's perfectly fine. That's what I do. And of course, don't ever feed food that has an off smell. I mean, their nose is way stronger than ours. So if your cat is really just refusing it and you know, it's been a day or two, then just toss it just to be safe. So I hope that answers all of your questions that you might have, but of course, let me know in the comments if you have any other questions. And please check the description because there are all the links to everything that I talked about right there. And you can check out this video right over 𝐉𝐄. It is a boneless recipe, one of mine, that I made for my mom's 4 cats. Thanks for watching.